Hi, it's Jordan Edwards here, and I gotta stop. I'm gonna chill for a second. 5 hidden energy drains killing your sessions. Hi, we're gonna discuss today the 5 hidden energy drainings killing your success. I was told that I'm not struggling, my energy is struggling. What does that even mean? And I started to realize that all have drains in our life that are taking from our energy. They're taking what we need and they're not providing us the return we want. And those 5 are digital overwhelm, toxic relationships, poor boundaries, decision fatigue, and physical. Okay. I did like 5 takes, so we're restarting this. The 5 hidden energy drains that are killing your success. You're not lazy, you're leaking energy. There are the 5 hidden drains that sabotage even the most disciplined entrepreneurs. So what we're going to talk about in this video is by the end of this, you'll know exactly where your energy goes and how to reclaim it. And the 5 topics, the 5 areas we're going to discuss on are digital overwhelm, toxic relationship and energy vampires, poor boundaries and overcommitment, decision fatigue and mental clutter, and physical neglect and poor recovery. So let's dive in. Digital overwhelm. How many of us are getting text, emails, Snapchats, Instagram, YouTube recommendations, Netflix recommendations, your son calling you, your daughter calling you? How many of us are dealing with it? And there's a point where it goes, this is too much. I can't do this anymore. And you start to realize that you're getting overwhelmed because we actually lose 40% of our efficiency when we're jumping from technology, from tab to tab to tab to tab without completing the proper task. So what ends up happening is we lose efficiency, we lose energy, and we lose confidence in ourselves that we can complete tasks. So I want you to start setting up times for yourself where we set allocations of no more notification free time. So for example, when I'm prepping for these, I write down, I have my whole system, I have my structure. So I work on it an hour before in the morning. Then I come to the studio, I have it set up where I can reference if needed, and then I dive in. And the truth is here, guys, if you don't set up systems, then you're going to be bothered nonstop. Like I don't even have my phone on me right now because I need to be focused on this task at hand. And I can't keep thinking about 40 different things. So the best way to do it is focus on time where you are fully focused, fully immersed in the activity that you want to get done, and then put the phone to the side because most of the notifications can wait. The second thing is toxic relationships and energy vampires. How many of us have friends and maybe even family that take our energy in a very negative way? And what I mean by that is you might be a very positive person. You may be on the journey of trying to provide more value, and people around you are, we'll call them negative Nancy's. They're upset. They're always, something bad happens and you're always trying to cheer them up. And it just takes a lot of energy. And you start to realize, is this worth it? Is this what I want to be doing? Is this how I want to allocate my time? And you start to realize that there is a value on that. And it does take out a lot of energy. So I want us to start to become aware of how are we losing energy? How are we gaining energy? Where's the energy going? And we're going to dive into that a little bit further on. But I just want you to learn about the 5 sections first. So we got the digital overwhelm, the toxic relationship and energy vampire, and then we got poor boundaries and overcommitment. So what does that look like? I was doing a coaching for an insurance group, and we were talking about a similar concept of this, about energy and how to maintain it and keep it high. And what the girl said was very interesting. She was going through, she's overcome a lot with like rehab and the 12-step programs. And so she wanted to give back. What ended up happening is that she was actually giving back every single night. Every night she was running a session for the 12 steps virtually from 9:30 to 10:30 at night, every night. What she didn't realize is that she's been doing it for years, and it affected her sleep schedule. It affected herself. It wasn't allowing her to show up for her different opportunities. And she sat there and realized, I overcommitted and I need to make a change today. So I'm going to ask you, what are you overcommitted to? What is slowly stealing your energy? I have another one for that as well, where I actually have a spiritual mentor, a rabbi of mine that I stay connected with. And we would meet on Friday mornings, and it would be a 45-minute drive there and back. No, it was actually 20 minutes there, 25 minutes back. Yeah, so 45 minutes. We would study for like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at best. So I'm literally spending the same time driving as I am doing the activity. So I started saying to him, I was like, hey, this is too much. Because I felt like I was doing it on Friday mornings, and then my whole morning was shot. And I was just tired because I felt like I was rushing so much that by the time I actually got to work, I felt behind. So I started saying to him that, hey, we got to find a different time because this is too much for me. And that's what we did. We switched to a different time, and it's been able to optimize my experience much, much more. So you want to start to set these boundaries. If anyone's doing too much, you want to set the boundaries, and you don't want to overcommit to too many things because you do have a life, and it is hard to stay focused on the things at hand when you constantly have things pulling you in a million different directions. Then the other big thing you want to do is you want to reduce decision fatigue, and you want to remove the mental clutter. So what is mental clutter? So for me, the way I like to think about it is like decision fatigue. For breakfast, do you have to deliberate across 20 different options? Do you want a smoothie? Do you want to go to Smoothie King? Do you want to go to a deli? Do you want to go to a bagel store? Like, there's so many options that if you can just make it at home and make it simple and healthy, it's like, how much easier could that be? So we do eggs every morning. So we'll make eggs, and then we'll do variations of different bread, different toast, different that. But then you have different cheeses and different meats. But in essence, it's the same thing. You make an egg sandwich and you call it a day. Why? Because the more that you know exactly what you're going to do, the less decision fatigue you're going to have and the mental clutter that you're going to be thinking about. So what that means is that since you don't have to worry about breakfast, now you can focus on that next activity. And this is what me and my wife do. We make breakfast almost every morning. Besides maybe like Saturday or Sunday, we might go out, but majority of the time it's healthier, it's easier, and it's more structured. So it's like, why not go with this route? And then actually we honestly do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on it majority of the time for, like, I would say Monday through Thursday for sure, maybe even Sunday sometimes. And it's just important, or no, actually Sunday through Friday, and then Friday afternoon we might go out for lunch. But otherwise it's just so much easier and it's so much simpler. Then the last one is physical neglect and poor recovery. So I have a Fitbit. I use the Fitbit to track my health. The reason I do that is because it tells me how my sleep is, it tells me how many steps I'm doing, it tells me how I'm improving, and you start to realize here that it's so important because if you're not optimizing your sleep, if you're not optimizing your physical health, then what ends up happening is you really start to show in your energy. You really start to lack a lot of energy, and you can't do a lot of the activities that you want to be doing because you're constantly being pulled back. Why? Because you're not able to overcome them. So some of the things I do is some of the really easy ones that actually almost anyone can implement is after a meal, try to go on a 5 to 10 minute walk. It'll help you drastically. It helps you digest. It's very European, and it really helps with a lot of those things. The other big one I try to do is the 3-2-1 rule, which is 3 hours before bed, stop eating, 2 hours before bed, stop drinking, and then 1 hour, try to do a digital detox. That one's probably the hardest for me, but I really try to do the food thing because if you eat your dinner too late, then you're not getting as well of sleep. So it's really important for us to realize these things because do we want to optimize our sleep and our recovery? That's a massive amount of our time that we allocate. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you're doing this in the proper way. Now, so far we've covered digital overwhelm, toxic relationship and energy vampires, poor boundaries and overcommitment, decision fatigue and mental clutter, and then physical neglect and poor recovery. So now you know the 5 areas that are that are draining your energy on a daily basis. Now that you know these, you know that you have to perform on a high level. So you have to sit there and go, okay, what's the next logical step? I know I'm doing this, but when am I? So there have been times where you might have heard something like a time audit, where maybe every hour you write down how you're doing, good, bad, whatever. And you start to realize like, hey, am I improving or am I not improving? Like, where am I spending my time? Does it make sense or is it a waste of time? Then I want you to do here, it's very similar to that. It's actually called an energy audit. So what you're going to do is you're going to start to look at your friends, you're going to start to look at your family, you're going to start to look at the people you interact with, and you're going to start to ask yourself, when does my energy wane? When does it improve? And yes, there's ways we can create energy, like you could do jumping jacks, push-ups, tap your chest, get high energy level. You can do all of these things. But overall, I want you to really sit there and think, how am I getting my energy level higher? How am I raising this? Does this fuel into me or does this take from me? And you're going to just want to take inventory of this for a week. And if you start to realize that there's people you go to, there's activities you do, there's things you spend your time on that are really just taking from your energy, you're going to want to eliminate those. You're going to want to, or try to limit as much time on those as you can. I've done this several times where I sat there and I might do an activity. That's why I still do the podcast, honestly, because I did the podcast and I go, oh my God, I feel amazing. I love that. And you start to realize when things work and when things don't work. Because how many times have we done stuff and we just haven't seen the energy we want? So it's kind of like when you do these different activities, you're going to want to see what's working and what's not. And most of the time we never know about this. So the way to do this is you want to measure and monitor. So we've talked about this before, but essentially what measuring and monitoring is you want to pick one thing, which is your energy level. Is it low or high, right? And throughout the day, you want to maybe do a check at like 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 4 p.m., and maybe 8 p.m. again. So you got 4 times. And I want you to check throughout the day and just track on your phone or track in a Google Sheet. 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 1 out of 10. So then you start to learn your high energy times, right? Is your high energy times in the morning or the evening? And you start to learn about yourself. And the more you know about the self, the better results you're going to get. And by better results, what that means is I'm referring to you understanding yourself and when to do certain tasks. For me, for example, I do much better with studio time in the morning. Why? Because I'm mentally astute, I'm mentally going. I do a lot of my operational work in the afternoon. So what does that mean? If that's the case, then it wouldn't make sense for me to do the studio at 10 p.m. at night. Why? Because that's usually when I'm tired. You know what I mean? We all have, obviously there's sometimes we can't and we don't have choices, but if you want to optimize your life and choose the things that you have control over, you should try to figure out when the best performing things are. The other thing about this is that I know that I this gives me energy. So when I go home, I have higher energy for the afternoon. So you want to figure out what these activities are that are bringing you energy and that are taking your energy. And you start to realize these things. And we talked about what the 5 are. And you want to just figure out how to really become aware of this. Because the more aware of this, the more energy you have, the more ability to accomplish things you're going to be able to do. It's going to be so incredible. And I'm looking forward to hearing about all your success and all your wins, because the truth is a lot of us are barely functioning. Like a lot of people aren't going through life at a top level energy. And you can feel that. You can noticeably tell with people if they're low energy. Energy is a currency as well. There's obviously financial wealth, but there's also time wealth, location wealth, and energy wealth. And you see a lot of people as they get older, energy starts to wane, but you got to protect your energy like a soldier. So, for example, like one of the things you got to do is if you know someone's coming after your time or coming after your energy, meaning like, hey, let's go do this activity where you're going to stay out until 11 or 12 p.m. and you know you have to be up, or a.m. and you know you have to be up at 5 a.m., it's probably best to decline. You know what I mean? It's not a good or bad thing. It doesn't say that you don't care. It doesn't, none of that. It's just, hey, I have to protect myself because I have a lot going on as well. So as you start to do this, I want you to become hyper aware of where your energy flows and goes, because the more energy you have, the more you can accomplish things. And the more we pay attention, the more energy comes from that. And when you're selling, people want to be around people with higher energy. Energy is just one of the best things you can do. And the more aware you are of it, the more you can create. So I hope these 5 energy killers are eliminated and your energy runs infinity, because that's the truth. You have an unlimited amount of energy. It's a resource that you can create at any moment, and you just have to utilize the tools and focus on building that muscle. So if you guys want to dive any further, book a complimentary coaching call with me. DM me, shoot me an email at jordan@edwards.consulting. And I look forward to speaking with you and can't wait and keep clocking in.